The COVID-19 crisis, the critical and urgent climate crisis. Tokyo is promoting a sustainable recovery with net zero CO2 emissions by 2050.
Time to act.
Our actions are key. Tokyo is accelerating climate actions.
Konbanwa. Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning. Thank you for joining the Time to Act Climate Action Forum organized by the Tokyo Metropolitan Government with support from C40 and ICLEI, Local Government for Sustainability. My name is Togo Uchida from ICLEI, Japan. I will be the moderator for the high-level session. Dear audience, today we live in a world of climate emergency. Science has concluded that it is unequivocal that human influence has warmed the atmosphere, ocean, and land, and that human-induced climate change is already affecting every region across the globe. Climate change is one of the main direct drivers of biodiversity loss and a threat to our human health and well-being. When over half of humanity is living in urban area, the role of cities are critical for us to achieve a sustainable future. But cities alone will not solve the problem. We need to be creative and we need to work together. And it is up to every one of us in a society to overcome this crisis, and we have no time to spare. Science is informing us that unless we do not halve our global CO2 emissions by 2030, we will see a severe consequence. It is time to act. Today, I am excited as we have a great lineup of very influential speakers from across the world who will provide their insights on accelerating climate action in order to secure a sustainable future. But before we begin our discussion, I would like to invite Governor Koike to give an opening speech. Governor Koike, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the introduction, and hello everyone. I'm Koike Yuriko, the Governor of Tokyo. Thank you very much for joining us today for the Time to Act Climate Action Forum. And it is a privilege to have leaders and experts from a range of fields gathered for this event. This year's Nobel Prize in Physics was awarded to 3 researchers for their work on the physical modeling of Earth's climate, which will assist in predicting global warming. I hope that the global passion to mitigate the impending climate crisis continues to strengthen. With COP26 just a few weeks ahead of us, I look forward to discussing initiatives for the lead up to 2030, which will be particularly key in achieving a carbon-neutral society and sharing these discussions with the world. And in August, the Tokyo Metropolitan Government held an international conference regarding sustainable recovery where we adopted the Tokyo Declaration on Sustainable Recovery to express our conviction. I'm committed to working with people from around the world in order to protect the planet for future generations. I hope that our discussions today will be meaningful and productive. And with that, I wish to conclude my opening remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Governor Koike. We have also received a special video message from Mayor Garcetti, the Mayor of Los Angeles, and also the Chair of C40, who is also supporting today's forum. Please.
Hello, I'm Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti, and it's my honor to welcome you to this event. Thank you, arigato, to my dear friend, Governor Koike, for hosting us and for your leadership on the C40 Steering Committee, especially when it comes to climate action around buildings and green hydrogen. It's been my privilege to serve as your chair of C40 Cities, a network of 97 of the world's megacities committed to addressing climate change and to work with leaders from across the globe. And today we have an opportunity that we must seize to turn the corner on climate change. In less than 1 month, world leaders will arrive in Glasgow, Scotland, for one of the most important convenings of our time, the 26th UN Climate Change Conference, or COP26. That's why C40 is working hand in hand with the United Nations to build a global movement through our Cities Race to Zero campaign, where cities of all sizes from all corners of the globe are setting bold climate goals. These cities have pledged to reduce their fair share of emissions 50% by 2030 and to reach net zero by 2050. Today, 837 cities have joined this effort, and our goal is to reach 1,000. It's simple. Our future and the lives and livelihoods of our residents depend on it. The role that cities must play in fighting climate change is clear. Cities make up 85% of the world's GDP, are home to over half its population, and responsible for 70% of global CO2 emissions. But we're also leading the charge in the transition to net zero. Today, 64 of our 97 cities, including Los Angeles, have in place climate action plans that meet or exceed Paris commitments, compared to just one country that can say the same. Events like this that Tokyo is hosting today are critical for giving cities the vision and tools that they need to take this bold climate action. So I hope this conference inspires you to take action and spread the ideas for climate action that you hear. And if you haven't already, please make sure your city is part of the Cities Race to Zero. Thank you for your partnership and commitment to climate action. I look forward to seeing you in November.
Thank you, Mayor Garcetti. Now we would like to move on to today's main session. We will have a panel discussion with 5 special guests. First, Yuriko Koike, Governor of Tokyo. Julia Longbottom, British Ambassador to Japan. Takejiro Sueyoshi, a representative for the Japan Climate Initiative and also Special Advisor to the UNEP Finance Initiative in the Asia-Pacific region. Third, Borge Brande, President of the World Economic Forum. President Brande was scheduled to join us today in person, but unfortunately, due to an urgent matter, he could not join us today on live. Instead, we have received a video message from him. And finally, Anies Baswedan, Governor of Jakarta. Governor also, unfortunately, had an urgent matter, and instead of participating live, he have sent us the video. So we will show both videos later in the program. Now back to the program. Today, we will have a few rounds of questions to our guests. And in the first round, we would like to ask our guests about their efforts to halve global CO2 emissions by 2030. I would like to begin first from Governor Koike. Please start us off with your efforts to halve global emission by 2030. Please.
Okay, thank you. Although we are still in the midst of the battle against COVID-19, we must not forget about the relentless advance of the climate crisis, which is threatening human lives. Again this year, extreme weather events such as heat waves and torrential rain have occurred around the world, and we cannot wait any longer to address this crisis. The actions we take this decade until the 2030 milestone are crucial in achieving a carbon-neutral society. When I spoke at the Davos Agenda in January of this year, I announced that by 2030, Tokyo will reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 50% compared to emissions in the year 2000, and increase the use of electricity generated from renewable sources to roughly 50% in order to achieve net zero emissions in Tokyo. The following month, we held a conference that launched the Time to Act movement, which aims to accelerate climate action to confront the worsening climate crisis. Governor Baswedan of Jakarta also took part in the conference and contributed to the joint message. And in April, as the leader of a city on the front lines of the climate crisis, I had the privilege of sending a message to the Leaders' Summit on Climate convened by President Biden. The theme of this session is accelerating efforts toward carbon half by 2030. To achieve this goal, we must work to decarbonize socio-economic structures in all areas, from business to daily life and urban development. Notably, achieving net zero emissions from buildings, which count for a large portion of a city's carbon emissions, is a common global challenge. In Tokyo, buildings are responsible for over 70% of carbon emissions. The environmental performance of new buildings will shape our cities in 2050, since buildings are used for decades. The Tokyo Metropolitan government has recently decided to consider launching a new program that will require certain new houses and other small to medium-sized buildings to install solar power systems. In order to reduce carbon emissions by half, all entities must accelerate their actions according to their roles and responsibilities. Therefore, Tokyo is planning on further strengthening and expanding the current stipulations of the Tokyo environmental ordinances, which includes the following 4 programs that encompass both energy supply and demand: the largely successful Tokyo Cap-and-Trade program, which targets large facilities; the Carbon Reduction Reporting Program, which covers more than 30,000 SMEs; the Green Building Program for large new buildings; and the Energy Reporting Program, which targets power suppliers. By pursuing all available options, we will establish policies to dramatically reinforce the measures taken by each entity and move Tokyo's environmental policies to the next new stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Governor Koike. Your message is clear and your strong leadership is definitely encouraging. Especially requiring certain buildings to install solar power systems would have great impact, and we will look forward to the future development of the program. Now, I would like to move on to Ambassador Longbottom. Thank you very much again for participating in today's forum. UK is hosting the upcoming COP26 in Glasgow. And building up to this extremely important event next month, the government have announced very ambitious targets for carbon reduction and clearly indicated that UK will be the front runner in the global effort to combat climate change. So could you please share us about the UK's leadership and initiatives towards 2030? Please.
Thank you very much, Uchida-san. And yes, just 2 weeks to go now to COP26 in Glasgow. And as the IPCC report has shown, we know that the impacts of climate change are very frightening, and we really need to act now. The British government sees climate change as a really top priority. We were the first major economy to establish a legally binding target of net zero emissions by 2050, which we did in 2019. We've committed to reducing emissions by 68% by 2030 and by 78% by 2035, leading to net zero by 2050. And we've shown that decarbonisation and economic growth can go hand in hand. Between 1990 and 2019, we reduced our total greenhouse gas emissions by 44%, while at the same time growing our economy by 78%, the best performance in the G7. Last year, our Prime Minister set out an ambitious 10-point plan for a green industrial revolution, an innovative and ambitious programme to create jobs and support growth across all our regions with up to 250,000 high-skilled green jobs created by 2030. We've also looked at vehicles. The sale of new petrol and diesel cars will be banned from 2030, with some exceptions for some hybrid cars up to 2035. And on coal, back in 2012, 40% of our electricity came from coal. But last year, that figure had reduced to less than 2%. We will have phased out coal power completely by the end of September 2024. In the same period, we've boosted our offshore wind deployment. We now have more than a third of the world's offshore wind turbines operating in the UK. So as you can see, and as you said, we do have a very ambitious agenda to reach these climate goals to reduce carbon emissions. It's great to hear about the initiatives that Tokyo Metropolitan government are taking and other cities around the world. And there's a lot to be done to achieve all of these targets in the UK, in Japan, and all around the world. But I think the UK and Japan in particular are ideal partners to work on achieving net zero together through sharing our expertise and further building our partnerships. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Now, I would like to ask Suyo-san. So you are a representative of the Japan Climate Change Initiative, JCI, which is a network of Japanese companies, local governments, and NGOs that are actively working to combat climate change. The JCI serves as an information hub to promote knowledge sharing, both domestically and internationally. Please tell us about JCI's effort to halve CO2 emissions by 2030. Please.
Thank you very much, Yoshida-san, for this valuable opportunity to share JCI experiences with you all. To begin with, let me thank Governor Koike for her government's very active participation to JCI. When we talk about JCI activities, what we should not forget is its engagement with Japan's central government on the national climate change policies such as CO2 emissions reduction target. Here is a good example. When JCI was launched in 2018, Japan's emissions reduction target for 2030 was 26%. It was much lower than scientifically required reduction target of 45%, and also much lower than those of other leading countries. It is this low target that inspired me to establish the Japan Climate Initiative, JCI, as a collaboration platform for Japanese companies and other non-state actors who were aggressively tackling climate change. If otherwise, 26% reduction would have been disgracing the international reputation of Japan and more seriously Japanese companies, it means Japan would not be a winner at the 21st century business market. In order to change such an unreasonable situation, JCI was launched as an open podium to convert non-state actors' voices into one powerful voice in engaging the Japanese government to revise its reduction target as soon and aggressively as possible. In April of this year, 291 JCI members together called on the government to raise its GHG emissions reduction target for 2030 to an ambitious level that is more aligned with EU and the United States target. JCI request of a minimum of 45% and hopefully up to 50% was publicly made as an open letter to the government, which was printed on a nationally described newspaper. After the call, the government officially announced that It would aim for a 46% reduction by 2030 and continue to pursue a challenge of 50% reduction. My strong belief is that JCI's voice encouraged the government to move forward. Along with such engagement activities, JCI members work hard for their own net zero goals. Among others, many members are participating in the Race to Zero campaign led by UN high-level climate champions. JCI launched Race to Zero Circle that has been serving as an official partner of the Race to Zero campaign to encourage and help more JCI members to join the campaign. JCI was born with 105 members. As of today, we are 671 members. As members grow, JCI will continue to strengthen as not only a collaboration network of non-state actors, but also an ambition loop to engage the government aiming to achieve the 1.5-degree target. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Seo-san. And let's not forget, around 500 local governments in Japan also declared zero carbon by 2050. So we are seeing this societal movement in Japan, and your work has been certainly encouraging these activities. Now I would like to introduce two videos. First, I would like to start from President Borge Brande's video message. As many of you are aware, World Economic Forum is known for its annual meeting in Davos, where it brings together key global government and business leaders to discuss global issues. World Economic Forum's this year's theme was The Great Reset. Responding to the COVID-19 pandemic and challenges to sustainability, World Economic Forum called for necessity to jointly and urgently build the foundations of the global economic and social systems for a more fair, sustainable, and resilient future. With this background, President Brande will inform us about what the World Economic Forum is hoping to achieve while the world shifts towards halving CO2 emissions by 2030, as well as his thoughts regarding the increasing awareness of the climate change measures among world leaders over the past decade and the future prospects. So please.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. It is such a pleasure to be here, particularly with my good friend, Governor Koike. Thank you, Governor, for your leadership on climate through decades. This gathering comes at a moment that is so crucial for the future of our planet. Tackling the global climate crisis will require collaborative, multi-stakeholder action across industry and government alike moving forward. The world is unfortunately on track for a 3 degrees Celsius temperature rise, which would mean sea level rises that would engulf settlements that are home to millions of people that actually will lose their home. The impact of this is huge, increasing migration, compounding food and water scarcity, significantly disrupting supply chains, and presenting significant detrimental impact on the global economy. The recent UN IPCC report delivered a clear message that we need to cut carbon in the atmosphere now. The World Economic Forum is working with governments and business to reduce emissions through urban transformation with the Net Zero Carbon Cities program, as well as industrial transformation through the Mission Possible platform and work on industrial clusters. Let's talk about cities. 78% of the world's primary energy is consumed in cities, 78%. 70% of all carbon emissions are generated within cities. By 2050, over 2/3 of people are set to live in cities. These statistics highlight why urban transformation needs to be front and center. The good news is that solutions and technologies already exist. We don't need to wait for new innovation to get started. Last month, at the World Economic Forum Sustainable Development Impact Summit, the forum launched a toolbox of solutions for urban transformation. This toolbox contains over 200 examples of best practices, policies, and case studies for decarbonization. This will be a game changer for cities and businesses. There are ideas for the full spectrum of cities from Tokyo to Sao Paulo and everywhere in between. There are examples from Japan in this toolbox. One of these is Tokyo's cap and trade program, which was not only Japan's first mandatory emissions trading scheme, but also the world's first urban cap and trade scheme. Congratulations to Tokyo. The policy targets commercial facilities, such as office buildings and factories, which account for 40% of the city's energy consumption. The scheme allows facilities to reduce its own emissions directly or purchase additional emissions reductions allowances from others in the market. This type of innovative engagement with business is key when it comes to the journey towards urban transformation and a low-carbon economy. Certainly, this is not a challenge to be solved alone. City-level government, national-level government, businesses, and civil society need to work together closely. And globally, we can do more to share policies, business models, technologies, and actions that can be taken now. We are moving in a positive direction leading to COP26 in Glasgow in November. But there is still much work to be done and to really close the global commitment gap. And we're witnessing a major political turning point on climate action. That's good. It's time to translate these political commitments into practical action and near-term targets, especially to get on track with emissions reductions by 2030. We are seeing a real movement towards new modes of collaboration too, with innovative approaches to public-private cooperation. For example, through our Net Zero Carbon Cities program, we're developing country-level hubs. These bring together national governments and global partners with local stakeholders across sectors to accelerate the green transition of the urban ecosystem in emerging markets. Leaders across industries must act urgently to ensure these critical goals can be achieved by the end of this decade of climate action. We're excited that leaders of megacities have been leading this agenda at all levels. And the World Economic Forum will keep working with you and partners to build, host, and scale public-private initiatives aimed at turning ambition into action. We're looking forward to the next horizon of sustainable commercial models for climate change measures nurtured through events like this and the upcoming COP26. We are really now at a crossroads when it comes to decoupling economic growth and energy growth from CO2 emissions. And with such a strong conference here in Tokyo and under Governor Koike's leadership, I'm sure Japan is going to leave a very, very positive footprint also in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that message was very clear. Ambition to action. And I think it matches today's theme of today's forum. So I would like to extend my gratitude to President Brande for recording such insightful video message. Now, moving on towards the next video message from Governor Baswedan. Jakarta is world's second most populous urban area after Tokyo. Economically and politically, Jakarta plays an essential part of Indonesia and also for ASEAN, one of the fastest growing regions in the world. Zero carbon commitment strategy by Jakarta is therefore extremely important in the context that the transformation to zero carbon society is happening not only in the global north, but also elsewhere, and in the context that the global economy is actually moving towards zero carbon. Please.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace be upon all of us. Good evening from Jakarta. Dear fellow city leaders, first of all, allow me to express my appreciations to Governor Koike for hosting such an important meeting that we are having this evening. As we all know, cities have dynamic rhythm of life that is always changing, always developing. And by 2030, 70% of the world's populations will live in cities. It means the choices of us, the city leaders today, will shape the built environment for the decades to come. And the latest IPCC reports serve as a dire warning for all of us. We are officially in code red. We are on course to reach 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming within the next 2 decades. We can limit temperature rise to 1.6 degrees Celsius by mid-centuries and reduce to 1.4 degrees Celsius by 2100 only if we take aggressive actions and only if we take transformational change today. This is why halving CO2 emissions by the year 2030 is a very important target that needs to be accelerated. But the good news is that our understanding of climate science is way much stronger than ever. We have now much better understanding of what works and what doesn't work. But we now have to act swiftly upon this knowledge. And learning from our own experience here in Jakarta, I can say that vertical integration between national government and subnational government is very crucial factors in our effort to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and to strengthen the urban government adaptive capacity. The national government should actively encourage, should support, should collaborate with cities in committing to net zero target through just transitions. On the other hand, the subnational government needs to develop a comprehensive, resilient plan using system thinking, including the ability to build on system synergies and circular economic principle to meet the challenging net zero target. The last point that I'd like to share here is that we have the COP26 around the corner. City government can often benefit from negotiations that is happening during the COP26. Thus, we need to actively ensure that our voice will be articulated and will be heard. COP26 will be a very strategic platform for world and city leaders to meet and to discuss so many things. So we need to push that our contribution in climate change need to be acknowledged in national determined contribution, or the NDC, of each country and globally. We can also discuss the architecture of finance for local government in accelerating climate change. All the collective actions are needed to be implemented jointly with citizens, with private sectors, and all entities as co-creators. Yes, indeed, it is not solely in the hand of government, but government holds such a massive role and responsibility. So let's work together and let's get things done. Thank you for your attention. Warm regard from Jakarta. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Governor Baswedan. Let's move on to the second round. And in this round, I would like to ask each of you to share us more specific actions that your cities or organizations are taking. I would like to start from Governor Koike. Can you tell us more about Tokyo's actions to achieve net zero carbon emissions, please?
Thank you, Uchida-san. Now, the Tokyo 2020 Olympic and Paralympic Games, which were postponed for a year due to the pandemic and ultimately held without spectators, brought courage and inspiration to the world through the achievements of its athletes. Our goal in hosting the Games was to generate qualitative change citywide and to build a sustainable society. And symbolic initiatives, including having the Olympic and Paralympic Village facilities, the relay torches, and the Olympic cauldron partially fueled by renewable hydrogen. In addition, a portion of the vehicles used for the games were powered by hydrogen, such as the Mirai fuel cell cars and fuel cell buses. As a legacy of the games, many of the 475 Mirai cars will be utilized by the Tokyo Metropolitan government, municipalities, and companies. Hydrogen is an essential energy source for a carbon-neutral society. This makes it crucial to advance the societal implementation of hydrogen energy technologies in a diverse range of situations, including citizens' day-to-day lives and social infrastructure. Currently, there are 22 hydrogen stations in Tokyo, and 85 fuel cell buses have been introduced into the Tokyo Metropolitan bus fleet. And we will stimulate the demand for commercial and industrial utilization of hydrogen energy, not just in the Tokyo metropolis, but throughout the entirety of the greater Tokyo area, which is home to 40 million people. Additionally, we will make further advancements in the implementation of hydrogen mobility. In order to make all buildings in Tokyo zero-emission buildings by the year 2050, it is essential to change our societal values so that green, environmentally friendly buildings are financially highly valued. Utilizing the wealth of statistical data collected through the programs such as the Cap and Trade program, Tokyo will, in partnership with real estate and financial companies, advance initiatives by analyzing how to effectively disclose information for making investment decisions. Now talking about finance. Finance has the power to resolve social issues. In July of this year, Tokyo released the revised draft of the Vision for Global Financial City Tokyo, which centers on the Tokyo Green Finance Initiative. Green finance is an innovative approach to combating the climate crisis by bringing together diverse entities. We will further direct investment funds to be used for environmentally sustainable development and measures in addition to advancing the revitalization of green finance. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor Koike. Indeed, green finance is an innovative approach to promote sustainable development and combat the climate crisis. Tsuyoshi-san, as a special advisor to the UNEP Financial Initiative, could you briefly tell us about the future of green finance, please?
Thank you, Uchida-san again. Before I answer to your question, let me make a very brief introduction of UNEP Finance Initiative. UNEP-FI is a partnership between the UN and the financial institutions over the world. It was in 1992 on the occasion of Rio Earth Summit when UNEP-FI was launched to promote sustainable finance to address global environmental issues, including climate change. With more than 400 financial institutions, 17 from Japan, UNEP-FI is leading today's sustainable finance. Yes, it is certainly true that the green finance is a great call to action to combat the climate crisis. Why? Because the green finance is a new initiative to supply green capital, which is a fuel to promote green transformation that leads to a net zero society by 2050. It is needless to say that without a sufficient green capital flow into the green transformation, decarbonization of our world would not be possible. Now your question, how do I see the future of the green finance? My immediate answer is that by 2050, ideally speaking, the emissions relevant to the loan and the investment portfolio of green finance will be getting to almost zero. That is to say, finance emissions will be zero. Furthermore, zero financed emissions approach by the green finance will be a very strong incentive to businesses which also want to transform themselves to net zero portfolios. Good news is that there are many net zero alliances emerging from every corner of the financial sector, such as banking, investment, and insurance. I'm very fond of the motto that UNEP-FI has been using since it launched in 1992. That is, change finance, finance change. I have great expectations that this motto and the green transformation are in perfect alignment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Seo-san. Now I would like to move on to Ambassador Longbottom. Thank you for being patient for waiting. So the COP26 will be held in Glasgow in UK, starting in 2 weeks. So please tell us what you expect from British and Japanese cities and companies regarding climate action. Please.
Thank you very much. Well, at COP, the UK is committed to working with all countries, but we're also taking an all-of-society approach by joining forces with civil society, companies, and people on the front line of climate change to inspire action. Action aligned with the goals of the Paris Agreement can help to shift the curve on climate change. And this isn't just for national governments. Businesses and local governments also have a key part to play in enabling a clean, green future. And we've just heard some fantastic examples of how cities are doing that. So local governments can influence the political atmosphere to drive support for increased climate action. This can include demonstrating firsthand the momentum behind the Paris Agreement by bringing about the change that we need to sustain our daily lives and our future livelihoods. But they can also tell the story about the pathways to net zero by implementing local policies and helping citizens understand the impact of climate change. We've seen this in the UK, where many local governments have set even more ambitious targets than our own national targets. These actions of local governments have helped to put pressure on the national government, meaning that we've announced more ambitious NDCs at the end of last year. It's also built overall public pressure to tackle climate change. In Japan, the embassy has been engaging with several cities and regions to encourage them to join the Powering Past Coal Alliance. I was delighted that Kyoto City, which joined in March 2021, became the first Japanese member of this growing international coalition to phase out coal power. We hope this pioneering decision from them will encourage other progressive regions and cities in Japan to join the Powering Past Coal Alliance and inspire progressive policies by the national government, particularly to end coal power in Japan. We also worked with the Kansai Keizai Doyukai with an online webinar together with the Confederation of British Industry, the CBI, and Bristol City Council, where we helped local business to develop the skills to lobby government for support they need to assist them with adapting and rising to the challenges of climate change. We think this event really helped to focus on how a city or region can embrace climate action and connect it with economic growth. It also looked at the part business can play and how action can be inspired at local level across Japan. And we worked with the Kansai Keizai Doyukai as well on the role that they can play. So we hope to continue these dialogues and many other capacity building events in the future here in Japan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Now, Sueo-san, yesterday, JCI organized Japan Climate Action Summit 2021, and I heard it was a huge success. Could you please share us about the summit and the outcome of the event, please?
Thank you, Uchida-san, asking this question. Japan Climate Action Summit, as we call it, JCAS, has been held every October since the establishment of JCI in 2018 as a key moment in JCI's activities. JCAS is a place for JCI members in diverse sectors to share their latest effort to address climate change with all of society, and for global leaders to give Japan encouraging messages. In JCAS 2020 last year, which was held online for the first time, we had a significantly 1,500 audiences. However, in JCAS 2021, we held yesterday, 2,000 audience participated. The growth in audience shows that the interest in climate crisis and decarbonization is spreading to all actors in our society, including individuals. I would like to thank Governor Koike to provide a video message as a member of Race to Zero Circle that had surely contributed to gathering such a significant number of participants. At JCAS 2021, taking advantage of the diversity of JCI members, in addition to top leaders of companies and universities, local governments, including Mr. Ogawa from Tokyo Metropolitan Government, consumer groups, a religious group, and a youth group took the stage. Listening to the experiences and the current challenges shared by the speakers, I was convinced that over the past year, the efforts of non-state actors to achieve net zero have stepped from commitment onto implementation and entered a new phase in decarbonization. Behind this change, I felt the common enthusiasm of non-state actors that the only way to overcome the climate crisis was to achieve decarbonization in line with the 1.5 degrees Celsius pathway. JCI is planning to organize an event at COP26. I hope that this growing momentum in Japan will be disseminated internationally at COP26, and that JCI will contribute to the decarbonization, not only Japan, but also the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Seo-san. I would like to congratulate Seo-san and your team for such successful initiative and events. Great to know that Summit drew many interests, and also very happy to know that diverse activities and examples were shared by many from different backgrounds. So thank you very much. I would like to turn on to Ambassador Longbottom. So you were appointed to the current position this March, but I believe this is your third time working in Japan. So starting from 1990 to 1993, the first time in Japan, and then the second time, 2012 to 2016. In the first round of comments, you have mentioned that the UK and Japan are ideal partners to work on achieving net zero together through sharing our experience and building partnerships. As an individual that have extensive experience living in and working in Japan, what are your expectations towards the UK and Japan relations, especially in the context of climate change? So please.
Thank you very much, Uchida-san. And as you say, as a diplomat, I spent time in Japan. I've worked here 3 times from 1990 through to today. And through that period, I've seen Japan evolve as an interlocutor on climate issues through the Kyoto Protocol in 1992, culminating in former Prime Minister Suga's commitment to carbon neutral by 2050. My term is 4 or 5 years here as ambassador, and I hope in that time to see the UK and Japan develop a dynamic and future-focused partnership where we can design and influence new international standards, harnessing new advanced technologies and industries in an open but secure way to achieve this. I think our task is to confront and manage together transnational challenges like climate change, global health risks, and cybercrime. So among the many goals during my time here as ambassador, I really think a key point will be on climate change and biodiversity. Japan's recent, and I think I should say more progressive stance on climate makes Japan a key partner for the UK and an ally. We've both got the same net zero by 2050 goal, and we're allies in tackling climate change. So I hope to work more closely with Prime Minister Kishida and his government. Above all, I think we'd like to see Japan set a clear goal to end the domestic use of coal, ideally by 2030 or as soon as possible thereafter. And we've shared our experience on achieving that in the UK. With Japan's move away from overseas coal financing this year, we think there's also more focus on cleaner solutions. And as a technologically advanced country, there's a lot that Japan can benefit from the huge opportunity for green transformation across the economies of this region, supplying renewable energy and clean transport rather than the coal and carbon technologies of the past. The UK is the home to a lot of investment from Japanese businesses, and I've been really impressed at the number of Japanese corporates investing in the clean energy, the green energy sector in the UK, and all of the infrastructure that goes with that. I think there's a lot of learning and sharing of experience going on in the United Kingdom at the moment. And I really look forward to British companies that have partnered with Japan on that, bringing some of those solutions back to Japan. And I think in the recent weeks, we've seen a couple of big British investors entering the Japanese renewable energy market. So it's a very exciting time. The UK and Japan, I think, have the opportunity to partner both in each other's countries and in third countries to help everyone reach net zero together and to build a cleaner and greener future. So I think there's a lot to look forward to. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Longbottom. So we are certainly looking forward to COP26, and I hope the momentum will build, and then that will contribute to further development of a good relation between the two countries, UK and Japan. And we have no doubt that your role as an ambassador will certainly contribute to a fruitful relation between UK and Japan. So thank you again. So we are almost to the end, and the time flies so fast. So now I would like to invite Governor Koike back for her closing remarks. So Governor Koike, please.
Thank you. Now, today, I was very encouraged to hear everyone's determination and specific initiatives towards achieving carbon half by 2030. Again, thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, it is now time to act. We must accelerate global climate action now. And COP26 will be held at the end of this month. It is truly the firm actions, collaborations, and partnerships of global entities, such as the speakers today, that will change the world. Tokyo will also take the lead in accelerating climate action. On behalf of everyone present, I would like to announce the outcome of today's event at the upcoming COP26 and future C40 events. Now, there is no time to lose, and it is imperative that we work together to confront the impending climate crisis. Finally, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to C40, ICLEI, Japan, and everyone who helped make this forum possible. Thank you very much. Thank you. ありがとうございました。
Thank you, Governor Koike, and thanks to everyone who joined this conference. This concludes the high-level session for today's forum. A workshop on hydrogen mobility will be held right after this, starting from 8 p.m., and followed by a workshop on sustainable building and finance at 9 p.m. Japan time. Experts from various fields will be having in-depth discussion regarding sustainable initiatives and future calls of action. Some of the participants from the workshop on hydrogen includes Queensland from Australia, Seoul Metropolitan Government, Iwatani Corporation, and also from Tokyo Metropolitan Government. And the participants on the workshop 2 on buildings, participants include C40, Rating and Investment Information Company, Nippon Life Insurance Company, and New York Mayor's Office, Ion Mall, and Tokyo Metropolitan Government. So we have diverse participation to discuss the issues. So hopefully all of you will stay in tune. Thank you very much, and see you soon.